Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Can we all hear me? Please, can we have
Good morning,
someone
sir. We
confirm
can
that?
hear you.
Okay, good morning. Good
Yes,
morning,
I can
everyone.
hear you.
All right, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to today's class. I'm so happy to have.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I'm so happy to have all of us in today's session. Welcome to week one of the JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship program for the first and second quarter of 2025. We are going to be having a very interesting discourse for today's top for today. Our topic for today is the fossil fuel industry, and we already have two of our mentors who are supposed to be present in today's class already with us. So thank you so much, sirs, for joining. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayobami, and also Mr. Etsulan for joining. My name is Dennis Williams, and I will be your moderator for today's session. So not to waste any time, I will just go ahead to formally and properly introduce our mentors for today's class, or the mentors that we expect in today's session. Um, Firstly, our first mentor for today, who is already here with us, luckily is already here with us, is Mr. Ayobami Dafe Iola. Mr. Ayobami is a barrister and solicitor, compliance specialist, PhD researcher, and law author. He has experience working in law firms, oil and gas, power and maritime companies in Nigeria and in the United Kingdom, where he gained in-depth knowledge in litigation and dispute resolution, commercial and corporate practice, corporate governance, contracting, regulatory compliance, and ISO internal audits, due diligence and foreign instruments regulations, and obtained law degrees from schools in Nigeria and England, and was awarded several certificates from Ivy League schools in the United States, Yale University, Contract Law, University of Pennsylvania Compliance Program, and top-ranked schools in the United Kingdom, that is University College London, GDPR, King's College London, the Modern Judiciary, Covenant University Business Strategy. He is a member of several organizations such as the British Nigerian Law Forum, International Association of Marine and Shipping Professionals, International Compliance Association, and the Nigerian Bar Association. He has some published work with Lambert Inc. Um, Lambert Inc. Germany, titled International Cooperation and Joint Ventures Legislation that Limits Foreign Investment, on sale in Amazon, and journals on applied business and economics, New York, titled John Company's Right to Choose Its Nationality, amongst others. He is currently a legal consultant, oil and gas, power, maritime, and cross-border transactions. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. It's always a pleasure having you with us in our sessions. We always look forward to hearing from your deep knowledge within the legal sides of the energy industry. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. We're happy to have you in class. Our next mentor that we expect to be in class here with us is Mr. Oboho Inyang. Mr. Oboho was called to the Nigerian bar in 2015. After that, he worked for a couple of leading Nigerian law firms before leaving for his master's studies in the United Kingdom and France. He recently bagged a master's degree with distinction grade in international energy law and policy from the University of Dundee, Scotland, United Kingdom. He was an international legal intern at Booz Long, a renowned commercial law firm with offices in Michigan and other states in the United States of America. Before embarking on the internship, Uboho worked as an associate energy and natural gas practice at the law firm Strenso and Con, Lagos, Nigeria. He is currently an executive associate in the Energy and Natural Resource Practice team of Bloomfield LP, Lagos, Nigeria. Also an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK. Uboho has a keen interest in energy and natural gas resource law and hopes to focus on this area of practice in his career long term. Mr. Obo has been here with us in a few quarters, and it's always very exciting getting to learn from him. He's one mentor I am actually always excited to hear from, and I'm sure he'll be joining us shortly. Our next mentor for today who we are supposed to have, but is not currently here, is Egongong Obo. Miss Obo has well over a decade experience as a legal practitioner, holds a bachelor's of law degree from the Benson Idahosa University, and was called to the Nigerian bar in 2011 after being awarded a first-class honor degree by the Council of Legal Education, Nigerian Law School. Egongong holds a Master of International Commercial Law degree from the University of Sussex, United Kingdom, and a Masters of Business Administration from Warwick Business School, University of Warwick, United Kingdom. Egongong gained experience in disputes resolution, corporate and commercial law, mergers and acquisition, debt recovery, and energy law while she served as an associate in the law firm of Paul Osero and Co. and Alex Legal practitioner. Egongong joined the legal team of Green Energy in January 2016 as an in-house legal counsel and thereafter rose to the position of manager legal, where she oversees the legal team, advising the company on its myriad of legal issues pertaining to the operations and management of oil and gas assets, oil and gas commercial transaction, projects and corporate finance and compliance issues. As company secretary, Egongon advises the board of Green Energy on corporate governance matters to ensure board's practice in line with the company's corporate values and best practices. Egongon is an active member of the Association of International Petroleum Negotiations. Thank you so much, Ma, for
a member of the advisory council and our lead researcher. Research is very important to the work
okay.
we do.
Somebody's mic is unmuted. Okay. Thank you so much, Ma, Miss Obo, for always being here present. Okay. Our last but not least of the mentors that we expect to have in class today is the one and only Mr. Okeogene Ubehe. Mr. Okeogene, since his profile is quite long, I will just be reading out of it, and then we'll get to
Not the same thing I
we'll get
said.
to
Even probably 6 or 7.
Okay, so I'll be reading out of his profile, a bit out of his profile, and then subsequently, you can always check our LinkedIn page. His profile has been uploaded there. You can always just get to familiarize yourself with who Mr. Okeogene is, but I'll just be reading a portion of his profile. So Mr. Okeogene is a top tier oil and gas and energy professional whose experience spans the upstream, midstream, and downstream sector. He is driven by academics, market research, and work training experience, which is reflective in his professional experience and education. He graduated from the University of Science and Technology, where he started his career in mechanical engineering. This following with several master's degree in project management, subsea engineering, and an MBA from schools in the United Kingdom and Rwanda. His oil and gas career took flight when he joined the Ceylon Subsea Limited as a subsea engineer and an ROV pilot, working for upstream companies like the Nigerian Petroleum Development Company and Total Energies. He then moved to a small oil and gas startup called MG Vargas Limited that was then a major player in the NAOC Agip land and offshore pipeline and crude storage infrastructure development and operation in the Bayelsa states. During this role, he led infrastructure growth projects and was the mastermind of the conception and construction of the world-class Mount Zion fabrication yard, currently sited in Transwoji waterfront in Port Harcourt, River State. He later joined the crude evacuation arm of the Midwestern Oil and Gas, which was then the most successful marginal field operator. This company called Umigini Pipelines Infrastructure Limited was and is a well-structured crude transportation and terminal operation startup. He joined the head of the field of operation and maintenance team in Delta State to run the robust strategy put on ground by the promoters of the special purpose vehicle, which is still making waves today. He is currently the head technical of Energy Link Infrastructure Limited, um, another novel crude evacuation storage and sales terminal infrastructure startups headquartered in Lagos but operating in Bonny. Thank you so much to our mentors who, always make out time to be present with us in this energy class. They are professionals in their field who have quite a lot to share. And we will do not waste any further time, but we'll get straight to the business of things. We'll start off with our first mentor.
Dennis, it's Hogan is here, I guess. Did I get you to release me?
Okay, sorry, sir. Sorry about that. All right, so please give me a moment. I think we still have a mentor that I didn't read his profile. I'll try to do that right now. Sorry about that, sir. Okay, so sorry, sir, for skipping that out. Sorry about that. So our last mentor for today is our very own Mr. Etulan Audu. Mr. Etulan Audu, MSc, MNSC, oil and gas industry expert, holds an executive MBA from the Quantic School of Business and Technology, Washington D.C., United States of America, MSc in Petroleum Technology, and from Tilsyth University, UKB Eng in Petroleum Engineering from Gobkin University, Russia. 10 plus years experience in the upstream oil and gas production operations, energy industry experts, and global voice on international energy, geopolitics, worked with major IOCs in Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. I once again sincerely apologize for skipping out your for skipping out your profile. So, like I earlier said, we'll be getting straight into the business of today, and we would like to give the floors to our mentors to give us a 20 minutes introduction into our topic for today. We currently have three mentors on call, and I think we'll be starting off first with Mr. Ayobami, and then we'll take Mr. Etulan's presentation, and then Mr. Okeogene's presentation for 20 minutes. As please, Mr. Ayobami, the floor is yours for your presentation in today's class.
Hi, Dennis. Sorry, I believe you have my slide.
Okay, the slides were not sent to me directly, but let me try and see if I can gain access to them right now.
Or I just re-forward it, and while I continue my discussion, then you can display it.
All right, so I will do just that.
Let me just re-forward in a bit. Sorry.
Okay, so have you sent it again?
Yes, I just sent it again. So I'll just start spending when I guess we can
All right, so I'll try to see if I can get it up as soon as possible.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be here, and it's good. I mean, JIIPCC has turned to be like a family to us, and it always takes pleasure in having coming to discuss from time to time. Yes, so we have like 5 weeks, and I always prefer the technical guys and the engineers go first because it's supposed to build your technical knowledge while also working as a lawyer. That's if you're a lawyer. Because I know most majority on this call are lawyers. Yes, so that's supposed to help a premise before we start diving into legal proper. I know that first 4 weeks are more of a lot of fossil fuel, renewable energy and the like. And it's good to have the fundamentals, because a good lawyer is a lawyer that can understand the fundamentals, even if it's non-legal, but it understands enough to interpret it in legal terms, vis-a-vis this resolution, legislation, or contracting, basically. Then the final week is now what I believe you lawyers like taking first, because it has a lot to do with more of legal terms. Yeah. So today we're discussing the fossil fuel industry, and my slide, which I believe Dennis will assist in displaying shortly. The agenda has a bit of introduction, definition of fossil fuel, current trends in Nigeria, energy law and regulation, advantages, disadvantages, and of course, a conclusion. So yeah, I mean, energy basically involves two forms. You have the renewables and the non-renewable. And the renewable energy is for sources that can run out, or as that will not run out, basically, or that are self-replenishing. So basically, they can replenish themselves. And examples is the wind, the solar, the tidal energies. Yes, I mean, the wind will always be wind, the solar will always be there, the sun will always be out every day. So these things are things that we can replenish, and so it's self-replenishing. That's why it's called the renewables. Yes. Second slide now, please. Or third. Next slide, please. Yes. So yeah. So non-renewable are energy from sources that can be depleted, and fossil fuel is basically a non-renewable. So we'll delve more into it in the next slide. And of course, there are legislations in relation to energy. You know, there are regulations, there are the pronouncements, there are precedents, and that govern energy practices in Nigeria, basically. And there are case studies, like I said, and regulations and edicts, and it governs even goes into licensing, permits, taxation, and all. It's here, free trade zone regulations and everything. So all these are part of basically the oil and gas energy, basically, and both in energy, in oil and gas, in power, and of course in other renewables. You always hear about a lot of law guiding it. Next slide, please. Yes. So fossil fuel, of course, which is our main center of what we're doing today, basically, is it's another term of it's a non-renewable energy, because why? They're not self-replenishing. They can't renew it themselves, basically, like we have in the wind and the tidal and solar that we have around. Yes. So fossil fuel, you hear a lot of renewables, but fossil fuel is still form of energy we have worldwide. Yes. Why we see a lot of transition in the UK has moved the transitioning time to I believe 2050 now. Nigeria has a 2060 target. Countries are setting targets on transferring from non-renewable to renewable. Why? Because it's cleaner. They'll tell you that it's good for the environment, carbon emissions, reduce as much as possible, and the like. But of course, so also we know that modern realities on ground are still making some, like Nigeria, stick to a lot with fossil fuel. Why? Because one, it helps our economy. Our oil and gas we are said to have sweet crude, and that of course is a major foreign FX earnings for us, and it's used to drive our budgets and do developmental. It's supposed to be used to do developmental practices, or build the infrastructure basically in Nigeria. So the fact remains is that fossil fuel is still much in use, but also we know that scientists will tell you that it's a bit harmful to the environment. So what you have to do is you have to try as much as possible to see how you balance or just oppose the fact that you need earnings from it, and the fact that you need to help and save the environment and the planet, basically. Yes. So it's still a lot of a work in progress. Germany recently had to reopen their coal mines, which because they needed, of course, it was winter and they needed sources of energy for people freeze to death. So we can hold them for that. Of course, we also had the Russia-Ukraine crisis that caused a lot of gas reduced gas supply to Europe, and they had to go back and start reopening their renewable sources of fuel so that they can survive and earn something also. So yes, energy sources include fossil fuel, includes coal, natural gas, which is used for vehicles and power generation, crude oil shales, bitumen, tars, sands, and the lights. And how are they formed? I know the engineers would most likely to have more of this, so I'll just touch a bit on this. He said it's been a long for it's been a decomposed plant and animals that existed for a very long time, and so it's going through a lot of things and produces photosynthesis and everything. So I believe the engineers on board will give you more explanation on that. Yes. So the side fact is that which I found interesting was that can human beings, dead human beings, can be used to create fossil fuel? The answer is yes, but the question is that if human beings have existed for too long, above 200,000 years, to be part of the fossil fuel. So maybe most likely not. But if human beings live that long, then of course the composed sperm matter of human beings can also be used in creating fossil fuel. Yes. There's also a dispute on water as a renewable or non-renewable energy. You hear a lot of hydropower, for example. So it's a dispute that is it part of a renewable energy or not? Yes. But yes, water can always is supposed to be self-replenishing, but also in some places whereby they have freshwater droughts, then people will tell you that then in that aspect is not a renewable energy because it can't self-renew itself. So it's a dispute, and the good part of being lawyers is this: you can argue for and you can argue against, as long as you can logically present your side of the story, basically. So this is a contention, and I will let you choose the sides in which you belong to, basically. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes. So yeah, current trends in Nigeria. Yes. Like I said, Nigeria relies a lot on fossil fuel, and it forms the bulk of our energy. Sorry, we're on the. Yes, that's it. Yes. And the good news is that you hear about the Electricity Act 2023 allows each individuals to generate power, I think, up to 1 kilowatts without the need for a license. So, and of course, we also have generators in which we fuel with either petrol or diesel and everything. So in our own, we generate power one way or the other to serve our purpose. And usually we rely a lot on fossil fuel. It's what it is, unfortunately. Yes, or fortunately, depending on which side you belong to in the divide. Yes. So yes, like I said, I told you Nigeria earns a lot from fossil fuel, and access to fossil fuel. We know the impact it has had on in Nigeria vis-a-vis pollution. Yes, pollution. Because in Niger Delta, we say a lot about pollution of farms and lakes in Niger Delta region, and talk about insecurity, talk about kidnapping, talk about bunkering now, that exists in those regions. So yeah, a lot of why we're earning a lot. We also found that always from drilling and mining of yes. Of course, things seem to be much better with the advent of Dangote refinery now. So fuel scarcity, it's becoming a thing of the past. We're having new refineries springing up. A lot of them are still under construction. Yes. Story about subsidy, how true it is. Those are making money off it. You're hearing that for years. And of course, soaring prices of petroleum products. It's recently has been going on and down. Now we're having a market demand forces and being the one dictating the prices of fuel now. Dangote will keep on money and reduces it. And the importance of fuel come and shout like blah blah blah, and you see a whole lot of economics are played in deciding the prices of fuel now. Next slide, please. Yes, and yes, we have a lot of quite a number of laws and regulations that energy, basically, fossil fuel energy, it's based on. And then we have a lot of frameworks, a lot of judicial precedents. You hear a lot of fines and a lot of sanctions by government agencies, NUPLC, and the midstream and downstream authority. The mass also sometimes also it gets involved in all that. Nostrils, if a lot of permits and approvals are required to do any operation in the industry, and of course a lot of fines and sanctions also, which might even include losing your license, for example, and everything. And that's why the whole idea now is to, as much as possible, safeguard the environment, which I believe should be the topmost of most agencies in the industry, because of the need to safeguard people's people and their surroundings and the environment, especially where they do all these drillings of oil and gas, basically. Yes. So most of the laws are centered around Nigeria Electrical Distribution Commission's Act, which drives the Electricity Act 2023. Here, agencies like the Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, the downstream and midstream, the upstream regulations, and NPC Limited, which now it's limited based on the PIA Act. The taxes also the FRS, and now the Electricity Act also creates opportunity and license for states electricity boards to exist and regulate within their domain. Next slide, please. Yes, advantages of fossil fuel. Yes, you can generate a large amount of energy at a single location. Imagine if you want to do a renewable, you want to do a solar panels, and you know how many solar panels you have to have before you can generate a large amount of energy. And even if you have alternative power in your house or in your places of work, you find out that they're always limited to maybe a few sockets and a few things that it's allowed to be powered by it. Unlike when we have a conventional light from the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company or the Ikeja or the Eco Distribution, you find out that that's all those discos, you can always power everything you have most likely with power. So fossil fuel allows you to generate a large amount of energy, so it's an advantage. It's cost effective, yes, compared to renewables, whereby it's a lot of steam in the research form. So we've still not been able to make it as cheap as possible renewable energy sources. So non-renewable fossil fuel, which is a non-renewable, is still cost effective. You can transport it easily through tanks and pipelines. So that means I can generate something here, or I can do something here, and take it to another place, basically. And then the R&D, I mean, it's still ongoing to try and make it a bit more safer. I mean, emit less CO2 in the atmosphere, and of course, less consumption also. I mean, we're having machinery now running on less fossil fuel than they used to before, which is the whole idea of research and development. Yes, easily, and of course, it's easily found around and used, and just part of the advantages we have. Next slide, please. Then the disadvantage would be next, which is cost. It goes without saying that there's a lot of pollution in the environment, and that's why if you're in oil and gas or energy industry, they will tell you that you always have to have an insurance in place. If you're working deep offshore and using a vessel, they'll tell you that your vessel has to have a protection and indemnity insurance, which sometimes the coverage are as much as $500 million or $500,000, depending on how big the vessel is and things like that. So your operations now, you have to have thinking about what happens when there's a pollution. You have to have staff trained to arrest immediately and things like that. And it's part of the requirements for working in a particular sector of the country. Yes, of course, they're finding resources, meaning they can be used up and they're not replaced. So that's why everybody keeps saying that what happens one day if we run out of oil. I mean, I don't think anytime soon, but they're used up resources, and then because they don't replenish itself. Yes, cause damage to earth, cause pollution, like I said earlier. They can be unsafe and prone to accidents. Yes, I mean it's a lot of, I know HSE officials will always be trying to prevent a lot of things that can happen, and of course what a petrol tanker can do when it collides with another car, or when it goes in a residential area and catches fire. So yes, it can be prone to accidents. Yes. Yes, and of course, the byproducts can be quite harmful. I mean, talk about gases flaring, for example, to the environment and things like that. Then prices fluctuate greatly. Yes, as you can see every day. Then drilling of fossil fuel, of course, it can involve also a dangerous process. You know, when the engineers and the mariners tell you what they go through off tip offshore, I mean, exploring oil, then you understand that it can be quite a dangerous process. Yes. Next slide, please, which I think should be conclusion. Yes. So while Nigeria has set targets of 2060 to get to a net zero position, basically, but the fact remains is that we need fossil fuel right now. I mean, yes, it's something that we can plan towards it, and I honestly, my personal opinion is that I think we need to do a lot more to even meet up with that 2050 2060 target. But however, there are theoretical, we have some regulations being in place, and to try and see how we can stop our overly reliance on fossil fuel and start thinking about renewable energy, start building our energy side by side with our fossil fuel industry, and see how when the time comes, we can easily drive our economy with renewable energy. So yes, it's something a work in progress. As long as we are dedicated towards that plan, and federal government has there's energy transition plan. We have, for example, Nigerian Climate Act. Also, we have. So this has very interesting provisions, but most of them are still not in enforcement at the moment. But I believe that if we can buckle up and toe that way of paying attention to what we have on paper, then and put it in practice, then I think our journey from fossil to renewable energy would happen at that set date 2050. But for now, a lot of resources is needed. Last I checked, I think we need over $400 million every year. I mean, to meet up that target of 2050. And the fact remains is that we don't see that in our budgets. So we rely a lot of foreign aids, and unfortunately, the way US is at the moment, aids to many countries and to UN has been cut short. So you see a lot of less amounts being put towards things like this. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything becomes good for us, and our transition to renewable energy will be gradual, but of course, hopefully, we'll meet the set target and help our environment. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ayobami, for that wonderful presentation. You were able to summarize and quickly cover what the fossil fuel is, just necessarily the basic knowledge that, mentees need to know about the fossil fuel industry. So we'll be moving on. Like I said, we have 3 mentors on the call today, and they'll be doing their possible best to run us through everything that we may need to know or we will need to know about the fossil fuel industry. Our second mentor for today, who will be running us through his own presentation on the fossil fuel industry, is Mr. Etsulam Adu. So, Mr. Etsulam, please, over to you, sir. We would like to hear from you what your take on the fossil fuel industry is.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I want to also thank Ayo for that wonderful presentation. He has actually been a very strong supporting voice for JIIPCC, and for the opportunity also once again being around. Over the years, I've been able to share my thoughts and ideas, and in this mentorship program, apparently I'm currently in the field as a production engineer working in the Middle East currently. So I had to create this time after my duty time to be able to join you guys. I hope you have the slide. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Also, your slides were not shared with me. I'm so sorry
We
about
sent to
that.
Sophie. Okay, let's see. I'm putting it in the message box.
Okay, sir.
I think we should try more for next time about this because the mentors have been able to send these slides prior to this meeting. Okay, if you check the message box, you will be able to see in the slide PDF of it.
I'm trying to download it, sir.
Okay, I'll give you some time.
Okay, to be
Okay, so,
open.
all right. So while we go ahead in terms of this first quarter meeting and considerations are put into the fossil fuel industry, and the other mentors will continue. I'll actually share basically from the operational aspects of the oil and gas and also look at the markets that relates to fossil fuels. As we are aware from the first presentation that fossil fuels are non-renewables. And which means is that they are finite. Sorry, they're infinite. It means that they can be used up. So unlike the non-renewables, which cannot be used up, it means that you can actually continue regenerating, just like solar and wind. But for fossil fuel, we'll be talking about basically coal, oil, and gas, which are normally from the petroleum or hydrocarbon mix. Okay, can you open the slide? Okay, so if you go to the first slide, and so we'll be considering fossil fuel industry. And this is a very big industry that globally has been contributing to industrialization over the decades and also causing emissions issues that has some real geopolitical influence in the current global economy. So let's go to introduction. So what generally I'll be looking at, it's a basic intro into fossil fuels and also looking at some data in terms of the various fossil fuels and how this contributes to our current operational and also a geopolitical context. Can you just open up? So if you go first, the fossil fuels are non-renewable energy sources. Means that they cannot be, they are used up for instance, you have coal, natural gas, and crude oil, which is petroleum, which is very important in today's economic and global landscape. So fossil fuel industries drill or mine for these energy resources. Like in terms of definition, we'll have to look at how fossil fuels are formed over millions of years. Plants and dead animals, when put into high pressure and temperature beneath the earth crust, they form hydrocarbons. And you can have oil, you can have gas in the solid form of coal. This is then drilled and explored. After that, they are being burned by combustion to be able to produce oil, gas, and also other energy intense products that we use to run the economy, fuel our homes and cars. So fossil fuel consumption has increased and doubled since the inception of time. Please, can you open the slide fully or maybe reduce so you can be able to see the full, no, reduce it a bit. Just zoom it. So you can be able to see, this is fine for you. Okay, so fossil fuel consumption has increased and doubled since the 1980s. We can see that coal consumption is falling in many parts of the world, but oil and gas is still growing quickly because of the clamor for energy transition. There is displacement of coal from the power generational mix. You see countries like China and like Ayabumi said in the previous presentation, that Germany, due to the Russia and Ukraine war, they had to come back to coal. They stopped before, and come back briefly. China is also switching from coal power generations to gas-fired power generation. So this is actually causing some reduction in coal. But recent geopolitical influences with current realities on ground have started bringing back coal again, increasing demand for coal. And India is also improving on that. So as of 2023, Nigerian electricity consumption primarily relies on fossil fuels, with about 32.3 terawatt generated from gas, making up almost 80% of total electricity output in Nigeria. So we can see the importance of fossil fuels, particularly being used in Nigeria. So we have abundance of fossil fuels in Nigeria, more than 200 trillion cubic feet of gas, more than 70 billion barrels of crude reserves. So we see that it's about 75% of global gas greenhouse emissions comes from fossil fuels. So these are general areas you can look at the concerns in terms of the impact of fossil fuels into the industries, and also what the effects are in our global realities in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Go to the next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So actually, basically, why we actually need fossil fuels? What is it? Why is it important to us? For the reasons best known, very common factors are like we use it to propel our cars, and today petrol and then diesel, AGO, used for heavy duty aviation fuels for transportation, air transport. And we also have CNG, compressed natural gas, for cars and other industrial processes. So we use it for power generation in terms of gas-fired power, coal power plants, and also countries like Saudi Arabia use heavy oil in terms of industrial production for power, electricity. So we also use feedstock in petrochemical industry. In the future, for global demand for fossil fuels, particularly with oil and gas, it's an area whereby when we consider the energy transition, that the oil and gas industry will become very important. When we come to that, that will answer some questions for the future of oil and gas, because petrochemical demand growth will be increasing. And if you see a factor where currently we have the rise of the Dangote refinery, this is an aspect whereby Nigerian crude oil for petrochemical feedstock production and plastics will become very important in terms of the existence and continuity of the oil and gas industry or in the fossil fuel. So petrochemical products are used primarily in components of electric vehicles, including batteries, tires, and lubricants. So in the reality of sense, if you look at an EV, the world is going much from in terms of transportation to electric vehicles. You see that majority of the components that are used for electric vehicles are actually from products of fossil fuels, such as your plastics from oil. So this shows that it's very important that in spite of the carbon emissions that are being brought out from the operations and production of oil and gas and other fossil fuels, that there's still necessity in terms of the use of fossil fuels to both EV, electric vehicles, and even to the oil and coal serve about more than 80% of our energy needs. Currently, I think it's around 83% of global energy needs. Fossil fuels are key to global industrialization and rising prosperity. So if you look at the industrial age, right from the early 1800s down to the current, we had the coal revolution where you have been used for rail, and we have the gas and oil, and all of this becomes very much in terms of global trend in industrialization. So fossil fuels have and continue to play a dominant role in global energy systems. So we're going to look at the energy systems of the world, and particularly what Africa contributes in terms of fossil fuels. So if we look at current worldwide liquid fuels consumption, it has reached about 102.77 million barrels per day in January of 2025. So it means that we are above 100 million barrels of fossil fuel liquids consumption, both oil and condensate. So the figures are expected to increase further throughout the winter of 2025. So in 2024, global crude oil demand was forecasted to average from about 104 million barrels per day. So OPEC is saying that there's still likelihood for oil demand growth. So it means that oil still will be for some time within the next few decades, in spite of the energy transition, particularly at 2050 net zero. Nigeria is looking at 2060 net zero. All of this comes into play that oil and gas still is important, and fossil fuels still remains valid for the next period. Can we go to the next slide, please? Hello, Don. Dennis. Okay. Yeah, so what's the future for fossil fuels? So according to the Energy Transition Commission of Copenhagen, so meeting a 2% objective implies that a sharp and immediate fall in coal. For we to be able to meet the global transition goals for net zero, it means that we have to have an immediate fall in the use of coal. This can possibly be achieved much more into coal to gas switching in power generation. But the recent calls from the Trump administration is giving a shout to support the fossil fuel industry, and particularly with the oil and gas, saying that they have to drill and drill and drill. So this, in fact, has brought about some geopolitical context into the future of oil and gas. So in the 2020s, there was peak oil decline for oil. Some belief systems still says that by 2030, the global oil demand will flat out, and you will see a decline. According to the IEA, there's expectations that demand for oil will definitely go down over the years. But industrial growth and activity post-pandemic effect, cost and recovery of the economics, both in the Western Hemisphere and in Africa, will actually still drive the demand for fossil fuel. So fossil fuel will still provide 60% of energy in 2040 compared to 85% today. But the pattern of use will change away from coal and towards gas, and increasing concentration and concentrated in the industry. So you have more into every industry, you have more into petrochemical feedstocks. So this is part of the future for the fossil fuel industry. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just increase a bit. So if we take into cognizance the value and what global the energy mix is, the energy consumption, this will have much more frequent data, but in 2023, as of 2023, you could find out that global energy consumption in terms of fraction, if you look at all the fuel types, generally oil still accounts for 31.7%, natural gas 23.3%, coal 26.5%, and some hydroelectric and renewables accounted for 14.6%, and nuclear about 4%. So if you go down into the renewable aspect, you see that hydroelectric has 43.9%. You have wind and solar. So you can find out that fossil fuels, the major fossil oil, coal, and natural gas account for more than 80% of the global energy mix, even as at 2023, 2024. And if you look at energy consumption by shares, in terms of Europe, you have 16.1%. You can see the Middle East, Africa, it's about 3.2% for the global energy consumption. So our share in energy consumption is very low. And this is why we, as a continent, clamor for the idea of a just transition, whereby we will be able to use our resources, our fossil fuel resources, to empower our economies within the coming decades, rather than trying to keep our assets stranded and develop renewables only. So this is the concept of the just transition that comes into play. So if you have time to be able to go delve into details of these specifics in terms of energy mix. So if you look at the graph, you see that Africa, Nigeria, we are energy poor in terms of global consumption. What's the energy used in the US for a household compared to Nigeria? You will see that we are actually energy poor, and because of energy access, affordability, and all of these factors comes into play. So sometimes refer us as we're energy poor. in terms of consumption and use because of our economic values and also the state of our nations. The next slide, please. Next slide. So I've already talked about the global energy consumption. If you look at the fossil fuel consumption, you can also find out in terms of countries. Fossil fuel consumption 2024 and 3, you discover that China has a lot of coal consumption compared with the US. US is low, and most of the core Western countries have actually dropped off coal, but most of the coal plants were shut down. They were revamped and brought back briefly because of the Russian-Ukraine war, particularly in Germany. Some countries that use renewables like nuclear, and which is also debated about in terms of non-renewable, renewable energy. So for Germany, you could see it's around 9 terawatt for 9 exajoules. And for Russia still plays some role, and rest of the world. So you can find out that even Africa cannot actually compete much in terms of the fossil fuel consumption. So China and the US are responsible for almost half of global fossil fuel consumptions. Fossil fuel accounted for, I've said this before already, so while primary energy consumption in Africa amounted to nearly 20.87 exajoules in 2023. So that is even less than what China does. Is more or less, China has more than 5 times the consumption of Africa. And so because of industrialization in these countries and in terms of manufacturing and production, they use a lot of energy compared to what we have in places of Africa. Let's go forward, please. So I've said it already. You could just look at the responsible for global energy mix. This shows some dynamics in terms of population per capita, in terms of consumption. So if you look at it, Africa, it's still again very low compared to the global average. We are still down the line, and then so you can see that we need to do more in terms of energy production and consumption. Okay, let's go ahead, please. Dennis. Okay, so today both South Africa and South Asia and Africa have South Asia and Africa has a low level of energy consumption. So if we look at the energy mix in Africa, we could see also again traditional use of biomass is high, renewables coming up, and coal a bit lower, natural gas and oil taking the big chunk of that with traditional biomass. You will have time. So natural gas specifically contributed to 26% to Africa's energy demand growth between 2020 and 2021. So Africa accounts for just 6% of global energy use and less than 3% of global energy-related carbon dioxide emissions, according to the International Energy Agency. So significant greenfield spending is around $370 billion over the next decade, which could be required for further natural gas as a transition fuel. So this is what we can focus on in terms of the fossil fuel industry for Africa. We see more use of production for LNG and natural gas. Can we move faster? I need to try to wrap up so that other mentors can be able to go on. So if you look, for example, how much is 1 gigajoule of energy, you could see what it can be used in terms of the home and the kitchen. Toasting will cost around 3,000 gigajoules. So if you look in terms of Nigerian consumption per capita, it's really small, 0.8 trillion of tons of oil equivalent in 2022. So electricity consumption per capita is relatively low. I've said that before. And can we go forward, please? Can we go further? Dennis? Okay. So one key aspect, and I will just go into in terms of industry overview, specifically with the various fossil fuels. For the oil value chain, you can see that the oil industry is divided into upstream, midstream, and downstream. So the upstream industry looks into exploration and production. This is aspect that we need to source for oil and gas and gold deposits by use of seismic exploration. After that, the production comes into play. And you have the midstream that has to do with transportation and storage. Downstream has to do with retail, refining and retail markets. You could see the importance of what Dangote refinery is. So as lawyers, energy lawyers, you need to understand the value chain for oil, upstream, midstream, and downstream. You'll be having contracts and also gas sale contracts and other, I'm not more of law. So in technical terms, these are the various industries you find yourself. You see that you'll be playing upstream or midstream or particularly downstream in terms of so transportation and storage, energy processing. So for oil, for the oil and value chain, when the oil is explored and under production, you have the wellhead down to the processing plants, then marketing and chemicals, then all of this. Both for the gas also, you have LNG and also exports and marketing, LPG, CNG, and all of those products. So let's go further. I will not explain too much. Okay. So in general, global oil production, Saudi Arabia, 9.7 billion. You can be able to see that 3 countries account 40% of global crude oil productions. This is a chart from the U.S. Energy Information Agency. So you see you have 9.7 million barrels per day in terms of energy production for oil production in Saudi Arabia. Nigeria generally, as at currently, there's this setting of 1.7 million barrels per day, coupled there's an improvement due to fiscal reforms that has been led by the Tinubu administrations. Okay, so let's go further. I will not, I will so that others can take over. So you can have time to be able to look at this data and see that the top 10 oil producers in the world and African reserves generally, you could see we have about 124.6 billion barrels total as of 2019, and biggest oil reserves in Nigeria, sorry, in Africa. Nigeria as a top player has about 28.9% of this, which is around 36 billion barrels. So these sources from US Energy Administration, BP Statistical Review. Let's go further. I've talked about, go to the next slide. We have to, okay, so I will not dive much again. We are aware of oil in Nigeria production increasing and decreasing over the last decade. You will see oil from 2.2 million barrels per day down below 1 million barrels and started picking up again. The government currently is looking forward to 2.1 to about 3 million barrels as in 2030 with this current administration. So this is the hope, and the oil theft and all of this. Okay, so oil export from Nigeria are mostly to India, France, United States, and the Netherlands. In 2024, oil production has averaged around 1.54 million barrels of oil per day. So this is a 40% increase from previous fall in 2023. So the government target for 2025 is 2.1 million barrels per day. Let's go further. If you look at the other slides down, you will see the various factors affecting the low oil production in Nigeria: crude oil theft, vandalism, pipeline vandalism, and all of that, and bunkering. So natural gas value chain, you have the oil and gas wells. So take note that we have what we call associated gas and non-associated gas. Associated gas comes from gas that is being produced with oil. So normally for oil production, when it's drilled and produced, you have this, you will see around, if you have come across any oil production facility, you will see flare, like fire burning, and the gas is being flared to be able to aid proper production and maintain the process. Flare monetization policies have been implemented over the years to be able to reduce gas flaring. And this is where gas to power comes into play, also in terms of decarbonization efforts that put pressure on the oil and gas industries, and also trying to reduce emissions. And we have what we call fugitive emissions also. So gas from the oil well is separated. Then you have the liquid products, water is removed and also vented and flared the minimum amount, because there's no way you will run a gas processing facility without minimal flaring, because it needs to relieve some pressure to maintain the plant. So gas is being processed, then it's compressed and sent to main lines of sales. Then normally we add in odorants to be able to have the sense of smell, so that and the oil and gas company process, then they send to
Hello,
consumers
sir.
for power. Yes. Hello. Okay. So, and for the gas well, same process to LNG. So we have production, transmission, and distribution for the natural gas value chain. If you have the time, you can be able to go through the slides. It's more, so we'll have more time. So let's go further. If I start to explain in the details. Okay.
Sorry, sir, I was logged out. I would share your screen again.
Okay. So like I will just be discussing why you try to get the slides up. So for the natural gas value chain, we say of production, transportation, and distribution. So for non-associated gas, where we have them from gas wells, we have that being processed, and when gas processing facility, you remove as well also oil, gas condensate, water, and also acid gases. You have nitrogen and carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and some H2S also, and have been removed from these gases to be able to have what we call they are called the sour gases. So these products are being removed, non-hydrocarbon gases removed, they have been also vented and flared. LNG comes into play, whereby currently we saw in the last International Energy Summit in Abuja, where the CEO of Nigerian LNG has been complaining that due to vandalism, Nigerian LNG has not been able to produce more and meet up. Okay, I should reshare the slide again. So. Okay, I've sent it back in the chat. Okay, so you look, if you see this, some voices in the background. Power generation, LNG comes into play. So Nigerian natural gas reserves very much, more than 20 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So we are actually a gas-rich nation compared to oil. And this is gives us a prospect to develop, because natural gas is being seen as a transition fuel that will bridge the gap between transitioning from the fossil fuel-based industry to non-renewables. Okay, let's go further. So if you look at the proven natural gas reserves, Dennis, are you there?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Sorry, I didn't hear the last thing you said, sir.
Okay, I said, okay, I was talking about the in terms of natural gas saving as a transition fuel for from fossil fuels to renewables. And this is where Nigeria comes very important in terms of as a gas-rich nation. We see what is happening with the geopolitics of Russia and Europe. And there are a lot of pipelines that are put into play. We have the Trans-African pipeline, where Morocco and Africa, Nigeria has been in play to treat how to develop this pipeline. We have the West African gas pipeline supplying Togo, Ghana from Nigeria. Okay, so proven natural gas reserves by country, you could see this. Also, Nigeria has it there. I will not have much time to explain this. You can check it after now. I just gave this data to be able to understand that the Russian Federation, the US, Qatar, the United States, big players, even Nigeria also part of global gas reserves, are proven natural gas reserve countries that are rich in natural gas. Let's move further. Okay, same top natural gas producers. You've seen it here. Go further so that I can get into coal. Can we move further, please? Dennis? Okay. So top natural gas producers, we've seen Russia, Iran. So for African gas reserves, Nigeria still has top the chart, followed by Algeria, Senegal, Mozambique, Egypt. Nigeria has the largest gas reserves in Africa as of 2021, with reserves reaching 206 trillion cubic feet of gas. Hello? Okay, so 2023 gas exports amounted to about 29.7 billion standard cubic feet of gas, which is around 1.04 trillion cubic feet. A total of 2.5 trillion cubic feet of gas was produced in 2023. 1.3 billion metric tons of LPG was consumed in the country in 2023. Export revenue for petroleum and gas resources have amounted about 6.84 billion in 2020. So in 2024, we had seen more than $4 billion investment in offshore developments in Nigeria. This is due to policy reform. So we are starting to see some foreign direct investment and confidence in the industry because of how the government is tackling the oil and gas industry in terms of pipeline vandalism, oil theft. So halftime, go through the historical production performance of Nigeria. You will see that for natural gas. Next slide, please. So you have the gas to power, and those are in the power markets. You will see that for normally exploration to production, processing, generation, transmission, distribution, and to our consumers. There are a lot of problems that are being affected in terms of gas to power in Nigeria. Wellhead and crude oil theft, this is still imminent. Inadequate infrastructure for gas mispricing in terms within the processing and generation. So the GenCos and the gas oil IOCs have some of these issues on ground. We don't have proper transmission systems in place for gas transportation. There's also utility and financial stress, and also delays in terms within the generation and transmission sector. We also have problem with transmission losses and price distortions. There are new laws this government have proposed in terms of the electricity regulations. And also one good thing that has happened is in terms of the deregulation of the power sector. So local states can be able to tap into fossil fuels to be able to generate power for their population, but this will come with terms of some various contracts. I remember very vividly when I was young, growing up in Bayelsa State. Bayelsa used to have a gas turbine powered, then it was supplied by Shell, the gas. And at some point I discovered that they were linked to the national grid, and this gas turbine was no longer able to be sustained by the state electricity board. I later discovered that what happened is that within Shell and the Bayelsa State Electricity Board, there are some issues in terms of payment of gas being used. So at some point, currently the turbine was just lying and not being used, and Bayelsa State in the national grid has been suffering a lot in terms of power generation and then use and distribution. So let's go further. So and the last fossil fuel we'll be looking at is the coal. As you can aware that coal still amounts a lot in terms of a global mix of energy. So to for coal value chain, you go to you have the mines. You can see where excavation use in the mines. Places like South Africa, we have coal mining. We have a lot of coal deposit in Enugu. Nigeria used to be a very good exporter of coal during the times of the colonial era. So you mine, you process in the processing plant, take inventory by rail, transported to ports and ship into the market. So India, and China, major importance. South Africa also rely on coal for a lot of power generation production. So this is like the value chain, extraction, processing the raw materials, taking inventory and moving to the global market. So in terms of the coal value chain. Let's go further. So global coal dominance in terms of share of energy consumption by fuel in 2022, South Africa topped a lot in terms of coal use, more than 40%. China, a lot. It's also China is being affected by the coal to gas switch. You can see Poland, Germany, all of this in terms of the mix within you'll see for oil and gas. So this is a chart that shows the interaction for the various fossil fuels in terms of energy consumption for oil, gas, and coal and others. All right, can we go further? So for top coal production, top global coal producing countries, India, China, United States, Indonesia. So you can find that Nigeria actually is part of it. We're not like, you don't hear much of the coal production in Nigeria. More focus is on oil and gas. But if you look at it, we are one of the top, as at 2023, are one of the top 10 coal producing countries. So it's something that we need to take note of, and it's an area whereby at some point, if the government pushes very further, we can be able to go by it, but because of emissions, I'm not too sure that this is what the government will be looking at very seriously. Can we go further? Same again, in Africa, if you look at the number of power stations that are produced from coal power, in Nigeria, we just have 3 coal power plants. South Africa has a lot, 18. So coal production in Africa amounted for 6.1 exajoules, which is equivalent to 209.84 million barrels of oil equivalent, coal equivalent. I mean, coal consumption in Nigeria is marginal, less than 0.1 metric tons in 2022. So it's exclusively in the industrial sector. So very quiet is an area that we have not been able to develop fully. But let's go further. So in conclusion, what I will try to say is that fossil fuels are at the heart of the climate crisis. We have the emissions, global emissions ongoing in terms of CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions. So despite the slowdown in global oil demand is still forecasted to be around 2.3 million barrels a day in 2030 than in 2023, unless stronger policy measures are implemented or change in behavior to take hold. But this is what the IEA is saying. So OPEC is looking at, based on their 2024 outlook, that it's expecting oil demand to increase to more than 130 million barrels. As of now, we are around 104 million barrels per day by 2030. So in comparison to what the IEA is saying, is that from the policy scenario, by 2024, it still sees oil demand coming to merely 0.17 million barrels per day by 2030. So conservatively, International Energy Agency, aggressively OPEC looking at, because I mean, we're oil producing countries. So eliminate fossil fuel, maintain emissions from immediate climate impact, and improve corporate sustainability responsibility. So the major IOCs, oil companies are trying to see that some BP aggressively, Equinor aggressively went into renewables in their portfolio and discovered that their shareholding has been reducing over the years. Currently, as at the last 2 weeks, BP is stepping back in renewables and trying to push back forward to their own core business of oil and gas. So you see this competition in terms of focus of portfolio for the IOCs is either diving more deep into renewables, which is not bringing share value to shareholders, or focusing on the core business of renewables. So use of technology that can help us to be able to maintain the use of fossil fuels, particularly in the oil and gas, carbon capture and storage and sequestration, direct air capture in production, and also gas to power use. So today, without fossil fuel, electricity grids would experience widespread blackouts affecting food and essential goods and deliveries. So I mean, this is fundamentally what I can be able to share on the basic terms in terms of the fossil fuel industry and with our mentees. I'm sorry I took a lot of the time. I hope I've been able to share some insights that are relevant to everyone. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you so much, sir, for this very extensive presentation. Thank you so much for putting together these slides. I'm sure our mentees will look at it and then go over some of the numbers because there are quite a number of numbers here, from the fossil fuel space. And Nigeria or us as a continent, we are still very largely dependent on the fossil fuel industry. Thank you so much, sir, for your impact or for your knowledge shared. So once more, we have one more mentor for presentations, and then we go to mentees presentations. So please, I would like to ask for group 1 and group 2 presenters to please get ready. Immediately after our last mentor is done, please, you'll be stepping up to make presentations. So please, the presenter for group, sorry, Mr. Okeokenesa, the floor is yours for your presentation. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. We are so happy to have you in class, sir.
All right, Dennis, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity once more. Confirm you can hear me, please.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Excellent. Do you have my presentation on?
Yes, sir, I'm trying to put it on, bring it on.
Okay, excellent. I can't see. Okay.
Okay, it may take a little time, but it's coming up, sir.
Okay, no worries. Morning, everyone, and again, glad to be here talking to the mentees. Also, hello to my fellow mentors, Abayomi. Thank you very much, Etulan as well. You guys have done a very good job already, so you have made my job very, very easy. I think the presentations has taken a lot of time, so I'll just quickly run through what I have. Most of what I'm going to say is just going to be a repetition of what the other two mentors have said, both from the legal perspective and also from a seasoned engineer perspective. So, Dennis, if it's taking you so much time, I can't share from my own end, if that will help. So we can quickly get through this. Time is fast spent already. So the mentees are able to go through theirs, if you don't mind.
All right, sir, please, can you help me with the sharing, sir? Thank you.
Yes. So just check if you have seen. I think I have it up already on my side. If you can see it, you let me know. I'll just shoot.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll just go to slideshow mode. Again, we're talking about the fossil fuel industry. I'll try to run as quickly as I can, just by exception. Maybe the areas have not been touched already. So my intention today is very simple, to talk to the mentees about the fossil fuel industry. Few of you, I'll talk about the fossil fuel industry impact on Nigerian economy, global fossil fuel consumption, global energy consumption by source, impact of fossil fuel, then professional development opportunities in this field. A lot has been said about the fossil fuel. Three aspects of it, basically gas, crude, and then also coal has been touched already on by the earlier presenters. Formation of petroleum product and crude and coal, they are very much almost the same process. Years of decay in soil formation, both for plants and microbes. Over thousands of years, high pressure on the sea surface has led to both the formation of millions of years for petroleum and also for coal formation. In terms of importance to Nigerian economy, I think this cannot be overflogged. In fact, I give a lot of kudos to the present dispensation for making a huge impact in the oil and gas, energy generally, and increasing the numbers in terms of daily production, not just for fossil fuel also, but also for renewables. The advisor to the president and the entire energy team and regulators, this one time I've seen them working together so much with the sole aim of increasing Nigerian energy output. And I think they're doing a good job. I think Etula mentioned the NIS conference that just ended, Nigeria International Energy Summit. I was actually there as well. A lot of traction in terms of government regulations meeting together. And the Minister for Petroleum, was also there, to add a voice to the industry where the investments are coming in. There are a lot of investors coming, foreign direct investment coming into Nigeria. I think the international community is paying attention to what is happening in Nigeria, both on the crude side, where you see our reserves are very high. Nigeria is around 37 in the world. Also in gas, Nigeria is doing extremely very well. Transition gas, we will play a lot. It will play a lot there. We're around 10th in globally, and that's our mainstay actually. Not even crude as the case may be. And I believe the investments are coming in. In terms of importance, over the years, we've seen how Nigerian economy has been impacted by what the fossil fuel does. In my own opinion, I would think that since the 1950s up until now, Nigeria have seen fossil fuel do very well, but I think we've not taken that huge opportunity. We've not used it very well, in my own opinion. But again, we have a second chance. Having not done so well in crude, we've had 5 years transition where there's an inflection. We are going back again to see not just only crude now, crude and gas, as well as renewable, come up again in Nigeria energy sphere. And we are doing a lot to see that Nigeria takes advantage of it, because if you consider the likes of Senegal and some of the new players in energy field, you will see how well they've used their resource in less than 10, 20 years. They're already making huge strides in the energy sector. And I believe that will be a wake-up call for us as Nigeria. In terms of fossil fuel consumption, again, I think this has been talked about already. Global demand is still increasing. There has been a myth that we're going to run out of hydrocarbon and all those stories, right? While there are different schools of thought. Personally, I don't think that is going to happen in the next 10, 20, 50 years. Fossil fuel forms the backbone of most economies, and most industries depend on this. Even the electric vehicles, I think one of my mentors mentioned that most of the parts of the EVs are actually made from hydrocarbons. So you can see how funny that would be if we don't have fossil fuel again. And in terms of energy consumption by source, right? Renewable is coming up in the new energy era, but the golden age and the gas age and the steady crude oil ages, these ages are running, and we are seeing from the chart we have that even in 2050, while the new age energy will be coming up, hydrocarbon will still have its impact and still be playing a lot in most countries. And just to push that forward, the energy space generally, when we're looking at it, we're still looking at 2025, 2030 and all. Hydrocarbon will still be doing so much. In terms of per barrel cost, rig counts currently in Nigeria, I think is the highest in Africa at the moment from the NIS conference, from what we have seen. Drill, baby drill, which is one of the languages we are hearing recently from Donald Trump and all that. The idea is to drop per barrel cost down as much as we can. But as of today, the prices are still going up, inching up and inching downward. I think we're around 70 something as it may be. The data I have is from last year. In terms of the streams that are involved for fossil fuel and gas, mainly we're having upstream, midstream, and downstream operation. I think all these have been touched on already. Most of the presenters have also talked about this already. Very, very key in all that we do. But basically, I think the message I want to put out there, most importantly, is the impact of fossil fuel on health and climate. This is one of the downsides that we have seen. And there's a wake-up call here for more research and development. While I see the industrialized world, they want to come up with energy sources that suit their own. In fact, there was a publication in the last 1 week from China to say they want to build a new technology that will replace hydrocarbon and all that. China has benefited from coal. They are one of the highest coal producers in the world today. And why I say China is strategically positioned is that they've used that position also to advance in technology to ensure that most of the solar panels being designed in the world is also coming for them. So that is why I said Nigeria has not done very well. You have crude. What have you used it to translate and make yourself stay as a mainstay producer in energy? China has done very well. So while they've taken note of the impact on the environment of the coal they've had, they've also created other solutions that can also allow them to stay important and relevant in the game. And that's what Nigeria needs to do. So, but in the part of health and climate, fossil fuel has had its own backside story, carbon capture, and as the likes may be, a lot of research needs to be done in that. And I say this with clarity in my head to say, technology, artificial intelligence, and a lot of things that have come to play now have provided new answers to old problems, right? In the past, when code was used as solid code in trains and power stations to be used. But today, coal is being melted, coal gas is also being used, coal liquid is being used, and a lot can be done. So the technology being used today for fossil fuel is the technology that has emissions. So if we're able to do a lot of R&D and we're able to push the narrative, I'm sure we should be able to use fossil fuel and not have that much emission that will damage the environment. And that's where Africa needs to lead. That's where OPEC nation needs to lead to ensure that we're developing a technology that will suit the kind of national reserve that God has given to us. And that's where the question lies, and we must take seriously. And those mentees on the call today, those young engineers coming up, and those young lawyers, we need to look into these areas and provide technology that will suit into the natural reserve that God has given to me, given to Nigeria, or given to whatever nations you come from. So impact on fossil fuel on health, we've seen so much. There's been greenhouse emission, like I mentioned before, health challenges, and a few other things we've seen. All of this can be looked into or can vanish when we have the right technology to deal with the issues. In terms of impact of fossil fuel, environmental and political is also there. A lot has been said about the Ukraine-Russia war, environmental issues, militancy, and drought also. These are things that we know that has also happened in the past, and we need to improve on them. In terms of legal areas of fossil fuel industry, as young lawyers on the call, there are a lot of areas you can benefit from all these challenges in the industry, whether good or bad. I think Abayomi mentioned that you can argue for or against, right? So any position that's been talked about today, you can also argue for and against and stay relevant in the industry. And this platform, JIIPCC, gives you the opportunity to learn that and then take a side, and then you can start your argument. So regulatory compliance, contract law, litigation, intellectual property, these are all areas where lawyers can play. Power sector, renewable sector, compliance. I mean, there's a lot that you can do as young lawyers, so pay attention to the opportunities in this industry. A lot can be said. My slide will be shared. You can look at all this and pick ideas where you can play in that space. I will touch on renewables as well a bit, electric vehicles, smart home technology, alternative energy sources. All these are sources of energies are very, very important as well, that we or the international community is pushing as fair energy that we can use. But again, we don't agree as owners or as national owners of the fossil fuel in our own country. And we're also pushing the narrative for newer technologies for us to use in our own country. One of the things we preach most in all this fossil fuel, non-fossil fuel, we believe there's a position called the energy mix where both renewable and non-renewable, there is a place for them in the energy world, and we must push the narrative to that position. In terms of how this can happen, the distribution of energy, basically, I think one of the mentors talked about it, Africa being energy poor. We need to understand of how, even with our fossil fuel, we can also migrate to non-fossil fuel and see how we can have a competitive distribution of energy where the rural areas also have energy to use. What are we looking at in terms of professional development? I've talked a bit on this. I think this is where the lawyers need to pay attention to. On the call, you have some of our experienced lawyers as well. I think I encourage you to have a session with them, discuss with them, and see where your career would align with. And one of the areas, again, I didn't talk about was consultancy, which I think is also another area that we can do well. Dennis, thank you, and thank you, everyone. I just thought I should make it as brief as possible so that we don't bore the mentees with our long presentations. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful presentation from your end.
Thank you.
We appreciate. So we'll be going over to the mentees now. Right about now, we've had presentations from our mentors. Our mentors have done well to share their presentation and talk about the fossil fuel industry. We would like to hear from you what's based off of your presentation and your research, what you were able to put together. So we'll be going straight forward to group one. The group one presenter, if you're here with us, please kindly unmute yourself, share your slides, and go ahead with your presentation. Please, presentation time is 7 minutes so that you can, so that we can have group two present as soon as possible.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Please, can you see my slides?
Not yet.
Okay, let me.
All right, it's coming up.
Okay, let me just. Okay, so sorry, I'm just. Okay, so good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Awal Haruna, and I'm the designated presenter slash spokesperson for Group 1 today. And our topic today, as our mentors have rightly put, is the fossil fuel industry evolution, impact, and the future. So we'll look at its role in global development as time has gone on. Okay, so basically, we need to understand what fossil fuels are, and already I do not know that the mentors were going to go before us. So by now, I think all of us have a very basic understanding and a very telling understanding of what fossil fuels are, given from the fact that we've heard from our mentors, from our basic science classes, for all the way from secondary school and all of that. So basically, fossil fuels are energies that generally are not renewable, they don't replenish immediately, and they are used and burn out faster than they can be replenished. So for generally, we use it as we have come to know for things such as cooking, transportation, electricity, providing electricity. What we are using right now is all from the fossil fuel industry and how far it has come. So definitely, as our mentors have highlighted, there are advantages that have come with this industry, but there's also the flip side, the side effects, the other side of the coin of this industry. We'll look at all of them today. So basically, the most when you think about the fossil fuel industry, you think about coal, you think about petroleum, crude oil, gas, and other things like that. So we have the ancient use of fossil fuels. That was way before the discovery of petroleum in Nigeria, in US, in anywhere in the world. The first one that we had here is coal, and this was used by the Chinese in 200 BC, the Romans in England. I don't know, maybe some of you here have, if you're somebody that has watched series like me, you might have come across the series Peaky Blinders, and you can see from their operations, there is a lot of like coal. It is like a coal industry kind of setting that goes on in the road. So basically, that's what happened. That's what was used at that time. Generally, the Industrial Revolution then brought in the use of steam engines and steamships, basically using coal to fire ships that will sail across the sea, use coal to fire trains that will move across the land on railroads and all of that, and so on and so forth. Sorry, I'm just trying to be as quickly as I can be. So by the 1300s, the Hopi Indians in North America used coal for cooking, heating, and firing pottery. The English rediscovered coal's potential in the 1700s, and so on. So now moving further to the second half of the 19th century, where we have the use of petroleum and all of that. The American Civil War, during the American Civil War, weapons factories were using coal in order to make weapons, in order to facilitate the production of weapons and things like that. So by 1961, coal had become a primary fuel for electricity generation in the United States. The modern era, now we can't talk about crude oil, petroleum, or anything of that nature without this name that is pasted across your screens here, Edwin Drake. He was the one that basically discovered oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania, and he was the one that more or less brought petroleum. He founded his, but along with other pairs, other people, other companies, they brought it into the limelight, which is what it is, and thankfully, it is what it is today. John D. Rockefeller, somebody, another American, had a company, Standard Oil Company, which was founded in 1870. But due to American antitrust laws, the company was unbundled and separated into various different companies. These companies, there were three from J.D. Rockefeller, and five others, I think, or four others from other international organizations that formed seven companies, and these were known as the Seven Sisters in quotes. And these companies controlled the bulk of production and petroleum throughout the country and throughout the nations. But then, as you already know, most of these this kind of control that they had over the oil industry made it so that they had the monopoly over the oil industry and petroleum industry. The price fluctuations and the volatility was so high that other countries that found fuel, such as the Irans, Iraq of the world, Saudi Arabia's, Venezuela's, etc., they felt there was a need to step in and provide a situation whereby countries of common goal producing the same products will have some sort of price stability for their work, for their product, which is how OPEC came into existence in 1960. Ironically, or should I say coincidentally, that's when Nigeria gained its independence. So make of that what you will. So the founding fathers, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Venezuela, and Saudi Arabia formed this company, and therefore they started making influence into, okay, how much barrels per day do OPEC members expect per year, how much should barrels be, and all of that, and so on and so forth. So moving on from the history, we have some of the largest producers of fossil fuels. As is no surprise, we have the United States. United States definitely, sorry. Okay, so we have the United States, which is the biggest producer of fossil fuels, which is just under 20% of the general total world production of fossil fuel. And this is something that is very telling because, as you know, America is one of the major powerhouses, major countries in the world, powerhouse. Same thing as Russia, major oil and gas exporter. Russia is actually the second largest producer of gas with 17%, and third largest producer of oil with 12%, respectively. We have China, which is the largest coal producer and consumer of coal and fossil fuel. We have Iran, and Iran, unfortunately, because of the kind of tensions that have been going on in that area, they haven't been able to fully harness their resources in coal and crude oil, mainly due to the fact of their possession of nuclear weapons and all of that. You know, they have been having a lot of scuffles with the US and other powerhouses, so they haven't really been able to develop their own oil reserves and so on. So, and then we also have the likes of Canada as well, top oil and gas producer. So definitely, this is of no secret right now that the contributions of the oil and gas of the fossil fuel industry, sorry, is very paramount in a lot of countries across the world, Nigeria included, the US, Russia, Saudi Arabia, all these countries, UAE, Qatar, all these places. When you think of them, think of the oil that they have. You hear oil money. This is what they do. This is what they. That was basically the bedrock and foundation of where they are today economically. Nigeria is no different from that. The oil and gas industry produce sorry, the oil and gas industry supports for about 65% of government revenue. So it can tell you how much oil dependent or fossil fuel dependent Nigeria is as a country. That's created a lot of jobs worldwide. It drives global trade and industry, as we've just spoken about the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So we also have the downsides, as I said earlier. We have the flip side of this industry. We have the climate change and pollution. Of course, Nigeria, through its climate change acts, said that it wants to achieve net zero emissions by the year 2060. But as it stands, we are not doing so much better than when this law was enacted. So this is 2025, and 2060 might seem a long time from now, but it's not that far off from where we are right now. We have price fluctuations and instability. It's a very volatile product. Its price can move from time to time. Its price can move from time to time in different, can go up, can go down. It's very volatile. It's not predictable. And then we have high cost of environmental damage. You know, people from Ogoni land, giving a contemporary example in Nigeria, people of the Ogoni land, they have been suffering from this since the inception of, since the discovery of fuel rather, of crude oil rather in Oloibiri. So these are some of these shortfalls and shortcomings. Unfortunately, we need to do better when it comes to providing a sustainable outcome and controlling the damage it does to society. Again, challenges, we have the environmental concerns, as I pointed out, gas flaring, producing different kind of black suits and all of that, creating a very harmful environment through the production of methane and all of that. We have the geopolitical tensions, as our mentor rightly said. You can see the issue of Ukraine, Russia, you can see other places too. I think right now there's also issues with Congo regarding their own mineral resources and all of that. With all these kind of tensions all rise, we have declining reserves, as we said earlier. This is a non-renewable, so it does not replenish. It only does so over an extended period of time, longer than maybe you and our lifetimes. And we have climate change regulations, and then competition from new renewables. So that's cheaper solar and wind. So we have investments in, we have some future trends here, investments in renewable energy. So currently, sorry, I'm just trying to wrap it right now. From my knowledge, I know we have the wind farm in Katsina State, but it's not really much of use right now because we usually derive our power from hydroelectric sources and fossil fuel. We also need to make sure that we diversify, make sure that we adequately make sure we conserve what we have, because unfortunately this thing is going to run out eventually. We have the carbon capture technology. This is a type of system that ensures that carbon is not allowed to escape into thin air. We need to capture it and reuse it, basically recycle it for something that is better. Sustainable policies. Obviously, the United Nations, through its United Nations Environmental Program and the Rio Kyoto Protocol, the Rio Declaration, Paris Agreement, these are all ways where the world has tried to make sure that we can use energy and produce energy. Meanwhile, we also protect and preserve the environment so that we don't deplete it. Because right now we're all facing global warming as the whole world, as everybody knows. So yeah, we also have the energy transition plans for balanced growth. So we are in our conclusion, we have said as a group, fossil fuels shaped modern industry as we have it today, and thankfully so. But we also face major challenges as a whole, as a humanity, like understand as mankind. We have so much that we are going through all because of this, be it environmentally, be through the environment, through wars, all sorts of things. That's what we suffer from this industry. We have transition. We need to transfer our energy. We need to diversify, basically. I think I read somewhere yesterday or 2 days ago that Saudi Arabia is beginning to diversify into something more renewable, something more sustainable that will benefit them in the long run, not in the short term. I think as a country, we are used to thinking about the short term and not the long term, and it should be the other way around, vice versa. And then adaptation. through innovation is key. We need to make sure that, okay, as even though we are known for our oil exporting, we should also make sure that we are also known for diversifying and making sure we put in renewable energy as part of our mantras. So we have here an open floor question. Can fossil fuels and sustainability coexist? Answer from my perspective is yes. Reason being, sure, fossil fuels deplete, but it can only go as far as you use it. If you take a bottle of Fanta and you just take it in one go, it's going to finish sooner than it should. But if you take it bit by bit, but you're also having water and other things around you, it's going to finish, but it's going to take a longer time. Therefore, you should make sure that what I'm trying to say is we should make sure we diversify our energy, be it for the use, be it for our economy, and be it for other things in use. Thank you so much. I've been Adam Al Haruna, and it's a pleasure to be here and meet our mentors. Thank you so much, JIIPCC, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adams, for that wonderful presentation. Well done to you and your team members for putting together the work. A good job to you for also trying to keep to time. So please, we would like to take Group 2's presentation also as quick as possible, if that will be as quick as possible so that we can take feedbacks and then we can have questions and call it a day to class. So please, do we have the presenter of Group 2 in class? Do you have the presenter for Group 2 in class? The presenter for Group 2, are you with us? Is the presenter for Group 2 with us? Okay, if the presenter is not available, can we have someone from the group present on behalf of the group?
Good day, everybody.
Yes, good day, Favor.
Okay, so I'm going to try and present on behalf of my group, but let me quickly join in with my system so I can share my screen.
All right, so please, while you're trying to do that, can you at least start off with the introduction?
Okay. In a minute. Okay, so this is Group 2, and we'll be talking about, our topic is fossil fuel industry and comparative analysis of the impact of fossil fuel across Africa with examples. So basically, we'll be talking about the impact of fossil fuel industry in Africa and be giving some examples, reciting some countries and noting the impacts of fossil fuel in those countries and how it has affected those countries. So earlier we've talked about what fossil fuel is and how it is playing a role in our country today, in our economy, and how it has been improving our economy at this current time. So basically, in this presentation, we delve into a comparative analysis of how fossil fuel influences various African countries. We'll be exploring the economic benefits they bring, such as job creations, energy security, revenue generation. And conversely, we'll also examine the environmental and social challenges, including pollution, health risk, and contribution to climate change. Okay, thank you very much. So basically we've already covered the areas of what fossil fuel is, types of fossil fuel. So I don't think I'm going to delve into that at this point. But basically, fossil fuel is a hydrocarbon continually decomposed material formed from underground, from the remains of dead plants, animals of millions ago that is burned to release energy for use. So the basic type of fossil fuel we have is oil, coal, and natural gas. like has been explained earlier. So oil is the mostly used type of fossil fuel. It is a liquid fossil fuel that is formed from the remains of marine microorganisms and deposited on the sea floor. And then coal is also another one that is very popular. It's quite an abundant type of fossil fuel. It is formed over time by the decay and large vegetation, and the deposits become coal when the layers are compacted and heated over time. So coal is a dense carbon-rich rock that is classified into 4 different types based on its carbon content, which is lignite, subbituminous, bituminous, and actorite. And then the last one is natural gas. Like, oh yeah, it is formed from remains of marine microorganisms and it is brought to the surface by drilling. It is a relatively new source of energy, and currently a lot of developing countries are into natural gas, and it is largely made up of methane, and it could be associated or unassociated depending on where it's found or how it's processed. So I'll be quickly moving into the main aspects of our topic, which is the impact of fossil fuel industry in Africa. So we have divided these impacts into environmental impacts, social and political impacts, as well as economic impacts of fossil fuel. So for the social impacts, we'll be talking about health implications. So fossil fuel industry, despite the fact that it has several advantages, or it has provided several advantages to communities and the country as a whole, it has a terrible impact in communities, in the sense that where this fossil fuel is being produced or explored, it has been seen to have created bad health implications on the persons that live within those areas. It has been seen to cause it has been seen to cause pollution, it has been seen to cause respiratory diseases, cancers, chronic health conditions. That is areas where these fossil fuel are being produced or explored. Another impact, and sorry, I'm on the wrong side. So environmental impacts, I'm so sorry for that. Like I was trying to state, one of the environmental impacts is air pollution. So in areas where we process natural gas, oil and gas, we've seen a clear situation of air pollution, because, for instance, natural gas now is being burned into the air. We see gas flaring. This is an obvious case of air pollution. And even for oil production, oil spills, we see a clear case of water pollution. These kinds of pollution do not just appear, they also cause bad implications on the health of persons that are within those areas. Also, this fossil fuel production and exploration also cause climate change. That is because of fossil fuel emission, there is rising temperature that change the precipitation patterns, increase for frequency of extreme weather. For the social and political impact of fossil fuel, like I was trying to state before, health implications where people within these areas get sick from respiratory diseases, asthma, chronic cancers, and whatnot. And then we have social inequality. So most times we see that in areas where this fossil fuel is being developed, there is no proper allocation of resources. These areas tend to govern, or I don't know the exact word, they are not properly taken care of. These areas, because of the nature of processing or production of fossil fuels, these areas tend to deplete, and then all the funds that are gotten from it are invested in other areas of the country or of the nation, and then these areas are left depleting. So it causes social inequality. So persons that are staying in those areas, those communities, become displaced without adequate compensation, and this is some they are impoverished, and it can be seen to cause social inequality. Another social and political impacts of fossil fuel industry in Africa is conflict and resource wars. So most times, I don't know if I should pinpoint the examples now. So most times in countries like Nigeria, we can see what oil and gas has caused based on the fact that it's one of the major sources of one of the major sources of what do I call it now? One of our major exports that raises income for the country. There are a lot of persons that want to be in control or want to be in charge of this area, and this has been seen to have caused several conflicts and resource wars. We can see Niger Delta Avengers, how they always try to break pipelines, steal from it, causing more local resource wars, and this is what we are talking about. It is a good development, the fact that we have fossil fuel production and how it is bringing income for the country, but it's also causing wars as to who wants to be in control over this sector, who can how is this income from this sector, how is it being shared? So it is causing a lot of conflict between various aspects, not just in Nigeria, but in several oil producing countries, as well as coal producing countries and natural gas producing countries. So another social and political impact of fossil fuel industry is governance and corruption. So in many African nations, political elites and foreign corporations control resource wealth, diverting funds meant for public development. Now, these areas, after they make or produce fossil fuel, or yes, they explore and produce fossil fuel, a lot of money gotten from it is put into a particular area, and then persons in control, to some extent, divert the funds that are meant to better the nation or develop the country better into their public personal pockets, or they just select where they want it to be, and they do not revert it back to the community or the country as a whole where it needs to develop. So this is a form of corruption that is being caused by fossil fuel. So some of the economic impacts of fossil fuel industry in Africa: revenue generation. So like I've said earlier, fossil fuel plays a good role, or a huge role, in providing good revenue for a country, for a region, for Africa. However, this source of fossil fuel, this revenue generation is volatile because it is not permanent. There are certain fluctuations that can come into it. Yes. And the next one is economic diversification. So in Africa, we can see that there is a lot of reliance on fossil fuel industry, especially in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we rely so much on oil and gas. We do not pay attention to other forms of industry that could possibly be a form of revenue that could generate revenue for us. We rely so much on oil and gas without paying any form of attention to diversifying our economy, and this is a very bad impact of the fossil industry. I feel like if we diversify, we'll be so much better, because if something goes wrong with the industry, it's common in Nigeria, gas and
Hello, Favor, can you hear us?
yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, your network is breaking a bit. Please, I would like to kindly ask if it's going to be possible for you to also speed up the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm rounding up already. So most of those impacts I just stated, air pollution, water pollution, poor job opportunities, health implications, economic inequality, lack of economic diversification are visible among several countries that we cited as our case studies, countries like Angola, countries like Nigeria, countries like South Africa. So basically, we noted those areas and then we went further to give recommendations on how we can handle these negative impacts. We talked about these countries investing in renewable energy, then us strengthening our environmental regulations to avoid things like air pollution, water pollution. Then we should support research and innovations, and then to engage and educate communities. So, in conclusion, the impact of fossil fuel oils in Africa is a multifaceted issue that encompasses significant economic benefits, environmental challenges, and social implications. However, fossil fuels have undeniably played a critical role in driving economic growth and providing energy security, and critical role in driving our economy by creating employment opportunities in many African countries. However, these gains comes at a considerable cost to the environment and public health, contributing to air and water pollution as well as climate change. So at this point, I would encourage that we do our best to transition into a sustainable energy source that will provide a promising path or more opportunities for innovation, investment, and improved quality of life. So by embracing renewable energy and implementing robust policies and regulations, Africa can mitigate the adverse effects of fossil fuels and pave a way towards a more sustainable and equitable energy. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Favor, for that wonderful presentation. Well done to you and your team for putting it together. Now we'll quickly take feedback from our mentors and then we'll take questions. So please, sir, so back to our mentors, starting with Mr. Ayobami, do you have any feedback for the group that presented and any feedback generally over their presentation?
Yes, I would just addressing both groups now. I would say in any research work or presentation, except if all the slides are coming from your own thoughts or understanding, or then it should try and reference where you're getting some of your facts from. You've seen Engineer Tulam quote a lot of US statistics from US energy, so that's how, as much as possible, let's know where you're getting some of your facts from, except if you're writing offhand on everything you're writing, then that's quite different then. So yes, citation quite matters and referencing quite matters. And also, as much as possible, let's hear your own voice. Let's hear what you think. Going beyond just the facts of things happening around, give an opinion on those facts. Like I said, the beauty of legal work is that sometimes there's no right or wrong answer, as long as you can generally logically present your reasons and state your reasons and facts of how things should be. On group one, good presentation. I love the fact of bringing in, it took me back to Rockefeller and the beginning of the Standard Oil in the US. It's a very interesting story, and took us down to OPEC also, which is highly commendable. I could hear a bit of your voice in conclusion, which you gave your opinion, and that matters a lot, because at least you took a side, and that's good enough. So it doesn't matter of being right or wrong. Now it's about yeah, he could present it, I mean, in a logical form, and that's great work. So yes, so just referencing, like I said, is something that you can improve on, and basically, yeah, I mean, I liked what you said about I think future trends and recommendation. I mean, and the fact that I mean, we might want to do it side by side. I mean, by fossil fuel and on the renewables, and honestly, I mean, um, it's something that I mean is commendable because I don't see Nigeria totally veering off the path of fossil fuel in the nearest future. Maybe in the next 100 years, but I mean, not now because we're heavily reliant on it, and we're reliant for input costs basically because we need that to I mean drive development in Africa. So good work. On group two, I mean, nice work. I loved mostly the part of you spoke about the environmental and community impact. Yeah, and I mean that was a very good one. And of course, governance and corruption also, which plays a very vital role in energy industry, especially in Nigeria and Africa. So that was also good work. So also no reference at all. I expected to see more of your own voice. I mean, your own opinion on things. So maybe that's something that we can take home for future presentations. I mean, the coming week. Also, you made some points, and I wanted to make a point on the recommend. One of the recommendation is that yes, like I think was engineer that spoke about it. Africa emits quite a number of greenhouse gases, yes, into the atmosphere, coming on outside. But honestly, compared to the world, it's a small minute. And so when I see Western nations come and say that Africa is not doing so much in climate change and everything, the question is to ask is, are we emitting as much as they have? So believe you me, we are not even, I mean, statistics, thank God Engineering Lam gave us a statistics from the US, so yes, we're not doing so badly, yeah, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't take cognizance of the fact that one way or the other, our actions can affect the environment. Yes, then last one I have to say is that you spoke brilliantly on research and I think development, yes, which is a trend I think we are lacking in Africa. We're still reliant on foreign technology. What countries have done, that's where we try to import. But I feel that it's really less expensive for us if we can actually spend time to actually build our own industry also through research and development. I've seen countries and companies like Total Energy, Total Upstream before, metamorphized into Total Energies now, meaning that, yeah, we're also thinking about renewables and the like. So let's have it hand in hand. Let's have that. Slum BJ, I was reading something from Slum BJ, and they have changed from being a oil and gas technically to a tech oil. So that's it. The people are rebranding, changing, and based out of research and development. During the week, I was talking to someone from Oxfordshire, a company there, and we were talking about fusion energy. Fusion energy is energy that uses power the sun and the stars. Don't use the power energy. I mean, this is brilliant. People taking time to research, and I heard that they got like $50 million grant from the US, got another $50 million grant from the UK, because those people see that this company has a potential in the research and development. And honestly, they have over 75 patents already. So these countries are way ahead of us, and we are always looking at borrowed technology. So research and development is something that we should think of, especially in Africa and in Nigeria. Thank you. Good work, both groups here.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful feedback from your end. All right, so can we have Mr. Etulam, sir? Please, we'd like to hear feedback from you on the basis of the presentation that was made by proponents.
Okay, thank you once again, and Mr. Ayo has been able to even give a comprehensive feedback generally, so I wouldn't say much because of the time we've spent. I like the fact that the first group were able to take ownership in, though I was like skeptical in terms of the very bullet points and the slide, and I was like, okay, let's see. But I was impressed with the fact that the presenter was able to give us details. from the presentation, taking ownership and the history of oil. I was like, oh, that's good. It's much more speaking more of like a petroleum engineer in terms of perspective. So good ownership of the slides and also referencing is important as already highlighted by Ayo. And I also will commend in terms of looking at the various aspects of the fossil fuel industry and all the impacts and also current realities on ground in terms of the industry. For group 2, good presentation ownership. I also would comment in terms of the slide presentation, more too wordy, and try to make sure that there are bullet points and then the future slides, and good the fact that someone stepped up in the group to take ownership. Good presentation. I also like the environmental aspect of it. And we will look at it currently in terms of fossil fuel industry, the oil and gas. For us energy lawyers, a lot of dispute resolutions will come into play, and also community issues on ground for oil pollution and vandalism, all of that. So you see currently there are some, Shell is trying to divest, the issues of communities taking them to court on the fact that they've operated over the years in the Niger Delta and they just want to leave like that without proper remediation. How the government is handling high prep, hydrocarbon remediation program, and the going people are saying that they're not. So I think very much in terms of the awareness in the industry. So I think I'm impressed by the fact that the groups have shown more insight in terms of their research work. Keep the data current, keep the data with reference, and also, I mean, continue the good job. Let's be able to have our slides handy for next time so we can be able to meet up with the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Etsulam, for that wonderful feedback. So please, can we have the last feedback from Mr. Okeogene, and then we'll be taking questions. Mr. Okeogene, are you with us, sir?
Yeah, okay, Dennis, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Small. I think the mentees did very well. I want to commend them for their presentation. I had a look at the presentation already earlier this morning, and I had a lot of comments. Just looking at it, I wasn't very impressed. Particularly the first presenter for the first presentation, I felt they could do better in terms of the quality of the slides they were giving. Just to reflect, no referencing, and I felt it wasn't well presented. But when Adam Taruna came on board, I mean, I was quite impressed with his research. Like has been mentioned by the mentors, great throwback, back again to the oil days. I started, we started with Standard Oil, and taking us back that memory lane again, back to OPEC and all. I felt that was quite impressive. It showed that it was not just about the slide, what you put there. Some level of work has been put and research has been put into this slide. So well done to the team. I was quite impressed. I didn't see much going into details into the fossil fuel. It was more or less just a superficial conversation that was had. But I felt he touched on the important elements of the entire conversation, and I want to commend him for that presentation. But I felt they needed to add more time, spend more time in your presentation, make it reflect the people that are making the presentation. If he was not there to give a voice to the presentation eventually, one wouldn't have thought a lot of research and energy was put into it. But I think there's a good grasp of what the fossil fuel industry is, coupled with what the mentors have said to them. So I think that was a good job they have done. So well done to Haruna and his team. And then for the second presentation, I think good job also done. Presentations, the slides also, in my own opinion, did not meet what will be expected of the entire team from previous calls that we have heard about. But I think the presenter also did well. They touched on various areas in Africa, not just Nigeria again. They talked on African countries, South Africa, Angola again, providing some context again around the African fair, not just Nigeria, which I think was commendable. Slides were too many anyway, and it was very, very wordy. I think that over time, as we go ahead, they will become more experienced as we go ahead. I think these feedbacks are there so that you're able to look at them, look at what you have done, and improve on them as we go ahead. Generally, I would say first attempt, I believe there are new mentees on this call. So I think as a first attempt, I think they didn't do badly at all. As Bayomi mentioned, referencing is quite important. Paying attention, giving good time to your presentation so it reflects personality of the people that are involved. I think that will be my last comment. But again, I think it was a good attempt by them, and kudos. I will expect to see something better in the next weekend. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So please, we'll be taking questions now. So please, if you have a question, we'll take live questions. I think we'll take 2 or 3 questions so that I think we're fast spent on our time, and then we can call it a day. Do we have any mentees with questions? Do we have anyone with questions from today's class and over the course of the research? There are a few questions that were sent over with the presentation. I will just do it to read them soon. I'm sorry, I will take a little bit time to get them on board. Okay. Give me 1 minute. All right, so the questions here that were sent from the research. The first one here is, with most manufacturers of cars going electrical, can we say the end of the use of fossil fuel is near? I'm sure our mentors in their discourse have, addressed this. Mr. Ayobami said that, well, especially with Nigeria, that maybe even in the next 100 years, where we have an economy that is overly or largely dependent on fossil fuel. And I think Mr. Etulam also said that, majority of the components of, the electric vehicles themselves use hydrocarbons to make. So I think for that first question, it's safe to say that in the nearest future, especially within the African or the Nigerian context, will still be fossil fuel will still be a large part of our economy moving forward. The second question here is, will the transition away from fossil fuel affect the global economy? I think I would like to direct this question to Mr. Etulam. So do you have a response to this? Do you think the transition away from fossil fuel will affect the global economy?
Apparently, if we look into that question, that's actual facts to say that in terms of when we look at the current realities in terms of the global economy, there will be impact generally. If today the International Energy Agency had, I think in 2023, as we were saying that, oh, we need to stop investment in upstream development of oil and gas for we to be able to reach the goal of energy transition. They are looking at among $2.1 trillion to be cut off in terms of investment into oil and gas. This would help to accelerate the transition into renewables. Well, factors that we can lead to that will impact if we want to shift away from fossil fuels in the net zero scenarios and all of that is that we will be able to have impacts on the job market. Imagine the oil and gas industry and also the coal industry, mining, being cut off within the next 10 years. A lot of people are going to be jobless in the Western Hemisphere as well as in Africa and other regions. So there is going to be, in terms of job cuts, and this will impact on the livelihoods of the earnings of the populations globally, and it will lead to poverty. So there's a fact is that we need to balance as we move from in terms of transition into renewables and moving away from oil and gas to renewables means that like the reskilling of the global workforce for the fossil fuel industry. So, in terms of technical skills, the oil and gas and also the mining industry and managing of mega projects have demonstrated capacity. And so this is something that even we see that major IOCs are within their existing portfolio have been able to have some renewable aspect to be able to keep as energy companies. So this is it's going to impact on job markets generally. They will see a decline in this sector of mining and oil extraction generally to affect that. So we will also see an increase in solar and wind power jobs. And when it comes to electric vehicle use, so in manufacturing, these are the job market shifts that will happen. We also intend to see in terms of energy prices. If you look at the fact that what we call the green agenda for EU, the European Union, when Russian war came into force, I mean, with Ukraine and the cut of gas supplies to Europe, we started seeing the increase in energy prices. I was reading an article this week in terms of UK, how the government policies driving more of renewable and also wind power. Because of the intermittency of wind power, there are sometimes that for rural England, that wind farms supply intermittently. So sometimes the government need to pay subsidies. I mean, ask the wind farmers or wind producers to be able to say, okay, you need to stop because for now we have to give more preference to power supply for which is stable from gas to power. I mean, from the gas generator power plant. So diving more away from fossils will actually increase energy prices over time. But if the scalability of renewables comes into play in terms of costing, then we can say better in the future that the energy prices will balance out. But for now, because of the affordability of fossil fuels, if we knock off away, then it means that we'll have increased energy prices. The energy crisis in Europe, we see cause a lot of things. A lot of companies in Germany shifting off in terms of manufacturing base. Some of them moving to China, some on to Latin America and other regions of the world. So we'll also look at in terms of money flow, in terms of investment shifts. And this is what I said before, that the IEA has been pushing with this paradigm that, we need more investment in renewables. We need to cut investment in fossil fuels so as to be able to accelerate the transition away from the use of fossil fuels. So this is very important aspect that would affect in terms of project dynamics and also technologies. There's also going to be an impact on regulations when we look at how government is going to implement some certain policies that will support transition. So Europe is very particular in terms of pushing green, and the impact is very clear. Some countries within the EU are not in support. Countries like Hungary have been very clear that as much as the push for renewables or cutting of Russian gas will impact on the livelihood or the economy and power generation, that it means that they need to stick to what is sustainable. So energy security has been very much important in this aspect of it when we talk of shifting away from from fossil fuel. It's very critical that energy security, which is currently a big time. If you see what the Trump administration is doing, is that they're pushing back American first theory, whereby we want to call drill baby drill, we want to see that the prices for oil is down. I mean, if prices is down, America can be able to buy more crude and put in their strategic reserves, and able to see that gasoline prices are being maintained less than $3 per liter or per gallon, I mean, in the US terms. So we will see the shift in terms of global trade dynamics. Countries which try to more have mind in fossil fuels will experience a shift in their economic power. This is what we see what Saudi Arabia is trying to do in terms of diversifying. Some of the mentees talked about this. So, I mean, it's countries that will have strong power in terms of renewable energy technologies will be able to resist or stand, or will be resilient in terms of the shift from fossil fuels. So it's possible, but this is going to be impacted in terms of reshaping job markets, regulations, influencing government policies and energy prices. These are areas that I think this shift can impact. I say, yes, it's possible. And these are the areas that will be impacted. So for now, there's potential in shifting away, but the impacts are very there. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for helping out with that question. And one last question. The question here is, okay, I don't think it's a necessary question. It says, can fossil fuels be tagged renewable energy? I think we've already laid the ground foundations that fossil fuels are mostly non-renewable. They do not, and they are not self-replenishing. Unlike renewable, the whole dynamics or the whole idea around renewable energy is that you can have more of it. So fossil fuels, in that sense, I don't think they can be tagged as renewables. But please, do we still have a live question? We'll take one more question and then we'll call it a day. Do we have any question from the mentee? Live question. Do we have any live questions from any mentees? Okay, in the absence of any question, I would just like to kindly ask for us to turn on our videos. Let's take a quick screenshot for class, and then we'll just call it a day to class. So can we have mentees turn on their videos? Thank you so much, sirs, for doing that. If you can have more people turn on their videos, it would be really, really nice. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ayobami. Thank you so much, Mr. Okeogene. Thank you so much, Mr. Etulam. Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you so much, Bright. Thank you, Favor. All right, okay, one more. All right, we are done with that. Thank you so much for being a part of today's class. I'm sure you were able to learn quite a lot. Our mentors have been wonderful. They have run us through, the fossil fuels, both globally and within the Nigerian and African context. It's been really, really lovely hearing from you, sirs, Mr. Okeogene, Mr. Ayobami, and also Mr. Etulam. We look forward to having everyone who is currently in class in the next section. Please do well to remind other mentees to always be present for class. Every information shared in class is very, very important, and you will not get this necessarily any other place, right? The informations our mentors are willing to share, including their slides, and their professional experience, are things you will not find any other place or in any other forum or, program in that sense. So thank you once again to our mentors for opting to share with us, opting to always be here and train more and more mentees that will eventually affect the world in a very positive way as we imagine. So with that, we've come to the end of today's class. Don't forget to post what you've learned from class, tag your mentors, connect with them, reach out to them if you have any questions, any further questions as regards to today's class. Connect to them on LinkedIn, and so that you can build or facilitate proper networking with them. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and bye everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
All right, bye.